Hey, I'm Megan Pickens of Family First Counseling out here in Mansfield, Texas. I'm a doctoral student in the PhD program in the Texas Wesleyan College for Marriage and Family Therapy. I am here to talk to you about what you can do with your graduate/slash doctoral degree once you complete your program as an LMFT in the state of Texas. Once you're done with your LMFT, there are different routes that you can take to utilize the license that you have and to get into practice with clients. Probably the easiest method is to work at a local hospital. Those hospitals for us include Millwood, Mesa Springs, Sundance Hospital, different places like that. Local hospitals either have a mental health program, which is an outpatient mental health program, or they have substance abuse, or they have both. There are also hospitals that specialize in different things like eating disorders and all of those kind of things. Those are usually the easiest way to get into practice as an LMFT and or an LPC. Um, you have an application process, you get a regular check, you're going to get benefits. Most of the time you'll have regular hours and things like that. So those are the pros of working in a hospital setting. Some of the cons of working in a hospital setting are the possibility of bureaucracy. There's often a lot of paperwork, and then there's a definite way that they do things at hospitals, which varies between hospitals. So you also have to be careful about where you work and always keep in mind that you want to protect your license, and that means doing things ethically and legally as the law states for counselors and LMFTs to do. Your second route could be to work at a local agency. Some of the agencies that are near us include the Parenting Center, Catholic Charities, different places like that. Those agencies are in place and they're usually set up through grant run programs. The pros to those agencies are that, once again, you have regular hours, you'll have benefits, you'll have insurance, get paid for mileage, things like that. What you'll do in those hospitals depends on your position. Some of them have field positions where you're out traveling, seeing people in the community or in their home, which does add a layer of possible risk. You know, going into somebody's home is a risk anyway, just because you don't know them. I mean, once you know them, and usually people are okay. Always follow your first feeling if you're going to do that. Or you're seeing people in an office setting as well. And those agencies are run the same way, similar to hospitals. Although some of the cons are that if you're in a grant written program, sometimes grants can run out. And so that may eliminate your job or maybe put you in a different position for your job. You also have a little bit of the bureaucracy, depending on who was in charge. You may or may not have disorganization, but that is not a given. Most places have it together pretty well. They have their paperwork together and all of that. Some of the pluses also are that you can get free supervision. So if you're interested in being at a hospital or a private agency as an LMFT associate, you can sometimes get free supervision that way instead of having to pay out of pocket for supervision. Your third choice is to work under someone else's practice or private practice. So some of the pros of that are flexibility in hours, flexibility in location. Some agencies offer in-home positions, they offer telehealth positions, they offer in-office positions. So you can kind of set it up how you want. Sometimes you can work for more than one agent, more than one practice, and do different things in different places on different days. Some of the cons are, though, that you will most likely have to pay either a percentage of what you earn, or you'll get some kind of hourly rate. And as a person who owns a private practice, I'll let you know that it's not because we just want to take your money, but there is overhead that the owner of private practices is responsible for, which I'll get into later. The fourth option is to work under a group practice. That means you are going to be working with a group of counselors or LMFTs that are already established in a group setting. So sometimes they share resources, they share space, things like that. Most likely they will already have things together. Usually how those situations work is that you pay a flat rate to work where you are, and you get either a certain amount of hours or a certain amount of office space or whatever. It just kind of varies on what place you are working at. There are different options in different places, and usually, if it's a larger practice, then they have more access. They have the ability to hire office people and things like that, so you may get a little bit of less overhead or a little bit more hands-off kind of approach. Your final and fifth option is to go into private practice yourself. Now, everybody wants to go in private practice themselves, but they don't think about everything that goes along with it. Now, don't take this as me discouraging you from going into private practice, because I am in private practice and I have been for 8 years and I love it, but it was not a cakewalk. There are very few instructions. There's probably more instruction now than it was when I started 8 years ago, but nobody really tells you how to do it. When you're taking insurance, if you want to take insurance, a lot of people like to do private pay practices, but it really depends on where you live and the demographic that you want to serve. So that's not always a realistic option. My practice is a mixture of private pay and insurance because I have a certain population that I would like to serve, and people who pay for insurance would like to use their insurance. So I kind of deal with the hassle of insurance. However, I've been in practice long enough to pare down and not deal with the insurances that give me more trouble than others. So some of the pros of being in private practice are, once again, being able to make your own hours, being able to pick your own location, being able to pick what even your clientele are or who you see. Now, once you get on insurance panels, if you get on insurance panels or employee assistance panels, then that could change. They can't necessarily make you see certain people, but they don't want you just turning away their clients, just for anything. But there's a way after you've been in practice for a while to kind of pare down, and you can let people know what kind of clientele you prefer. So those are the pros. And I mean, you get all of the money that you make. But keep in mind, and here we go into some of the cons, is that every bit of money you make is going to be into running your practice. Oftentimes, it will get recycled right back into the practice. You are taught to pay yourself and have a salary and all of that, and that is something I've strived for and strive to do, and I do fairly well, but not that well. So when I say that, I mean that I don't know for sure that I'll get paid a certain amount per month, because if it's between the practice closing or a bill being late and me getting paid, then I'm going to go ahead and pay the bill. Now, I know that sounds crazy because I do have to have something to live off of, and I do, but when I say that, I mean that for me, the business is more important than me shopping and things like that. So those are some of the things that you're going to give up. If you don't have a regular agency job or regular check coming in, sometimes you won't be able to get luxuries. And I know on television and all of that stuff, they try to make it like you're living in a lap of luxury. And people often think you're living in a lap of luxury as a private practice person, but it doesn't really work that way. But I guess it could. It just depends on where you are and who you want to serve. The other cons are insurance. If you don't have a spouse, then you do have to pay for your own private insurance unless you've got some kind of contract with an agency that will cover your insurance, which is also an option. Just doing contract work that gives you healthcare insurance. Some of the other cons are, if something goes wrong in the office, I have to make sure it gets taken care of. I have to make sure the office is cleaned. If I don't have a cleaning service, then that means that on Saturday or a Sunday or whatever day that I want to come in, then I have to come in and clean the office, because you don't want to have a dirty office. I have to cover paper, pencils, pens, all the things that you take for granted in working in an agency. So just keep that in mind. One of the last things I want to address is business planning. I hear this and it's been drilled into me. My mom tried to get me to do it. All of this stuff. People say business plan, business plan, business plan. I did not have a business plan. I actually truly don't have a quote unquote formal business plan right now. I do have plans on what I want to do with my practice and how I want to grow. I'm not saying that's the way that you should do it, but I'm just saying that I did survive without the business plan, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Have an idea of what you want to do. Have an idea of how you want your life to be and what level you want to live at. One of the best things I did for myself is to sit down and write out all of my expenses and how much money I wanted to have for fun, because I'm very extroverted. at the end of the month. So I sat down and I figured out how much money I needed. And then I took my lowest insurance rate and added that up and and I figured out how many appointments that I would need within a month to cover all the expenses that I have for my practice and for myself. You would be surprised at how relieving that was, because it turns out I really only need about 16 sessions a month to break even, and then maybe about, I don't know, 24, 25 to have a little money to play with. But my slots for counseling are more than that per week. So I know that sounds like a lot and like I'm living in a lap of luxury. But let me tell you, no, I'm not. I have student loans. I have groceries. I have an adult child that I help care for. I live with my mom, so I help take care of my mom and things in the house. So once again, it's not a lack of luxury lifestyle. But one thing I've learned is that you cannot pay for peace. And I'm at peace. I work when I want to. I don't work when I want to. If my family needs me available, then I'm available for my family. I'm available for my clients. And also, I have multiple streams of income. One of my other forms of income is my private practice consultation, which I haven't done much with lately, but it's still there and it's something I'm working on. I also bake sometimes for fun, which once again I haven't done because the PhD program has kind of taken over my life. So keep that in mind if you want to do a PhD program. But going back to other things, so my main other stream of income is supervision. I'm an LPC supervisor, and so I supervise other counselors, and I get paid for that monthly. And the payment is not for the supervision. The payment is for the risk, which is something that I explain to them. And I also have students that I allow to work in my practice, both practicum students and LPC interns and LMFT associates. And that brings in a little income. I don't try to take all of their money, but I do cover overhead and things like that. So that's just kind of part of being in the business of being in practice. So once again, just to review, the routes that you can take as an LMFT in practice or an LPC in practice are: number one, you can work at a hospital. Number two, you can work at an agency. Number three, you can work under someone's practice. Number four, you can work under a group practice. And number five, you can be in private practice. Good luck to you. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in whichever route you take.